7-footers.
We're back.
Yes, we are. We are on a roll, Jarod.
We
Jarod. We have so much to talk about this week. Jenna
Lots.
Lemon Sally here, as you know.
And Jarod Hector doing our thing.
Doing our thing per usual. So many hot headlines
Woo.
in the association this week. And we obviously have to begin with a topic that we covered very heavily last week.
We
and
did.
how the world just comes full circle. Because here we are talking about it again. And as you guys probably could have guessed, Russell Westbrook and his little tiff, or more than that,
Right.
with a fan. Okay. OKC played the Jazz on March 11th on Monday. Now, lines were extremely crossed.
Oh, without
here.
question. Without question.
Exactly. Heated exchange went down between OKC's Russell Westbrook and a Utah Jazz fan. Now, it did not work out in the fan's favor. So it resulted in the fan being banned for life, and obviously there's been widespread support for Westbrook throughout the league, other players, fans included. Now, break it down for us, Jarod. I'm going to let you break it down.
Well, I appreciate that. So look, let's first start that there's nuance that needs to happen here with this, right? And while everyone knows I generally am pro player and side with players, and I will side with Russ on this, but there is blame to go around on both sides, right?
Okay.
And here's what I mean by that.
Well, tell us what happened.
So Russ is on the bench during this particular verbal spat with the fan, and the fan apparently crosses the line. And a lot of things that people will often say is, well, what's the line? How can you cross? They're a ticket holder. They can listen.
It's about being a human being and a respectful one.
We've already discussed this ad nauseum. I'm going to say it again. A ticket to a game does not give you the right to do whatever it is you want to do in the arena.
No.
Period. If what you are saying is something that would get you punched in the face, in the street, or somewhere else, you know I probably shouldn't be saying this.
Of course.
Okay? And what was alleged to be said by the fan was, according to Russ, was the fan said to him, get down on your knees like you used to, right? And so that can be taken a number of different ways. Obviously, Russ said there's a racial component to it.
I don't think he's wrong.
Right. What a lot of people also thought was there a homophobic component to it?
Yep.
Homophobia.
It's all wrong.
All wrong by this fan. Listen, you want to go to a game and support your home team and boo the opposing player? Boo till your heart's content. I do not care. You cross the line when you start attacking these guys on a personal level. You want to say, Westbrook, you stink, or Westbrook, cool. That's attacking his play.
Yes.
No problem. You can go nuts on that. Everyone knows and is smart enough to know what the line to cross is. And the thing that
common sense.
The thing that a lot of these fans do, though, is they know these players aren't going to do anything to me. So I'm going to say whatever I want because they're not going to come up there. Because, listen, as angry as Russ was, and he was heated, right? You heard Russ said, I swear on my life, bro, I'm serious. Like
he said, I'll F you up and your wife.
I'll F you and your wife up, right? And the part that's got everybody sort of, is the violence towards women. And Russ said after the game, like, I've never committed domestic violence. I would never hit a woman.
Yeah.
That is in the heat of the moment, you could tell that there was back and forth between Russ and the fan, and the wife got in on it as well, jumping in. And so Russ was like, both of you are going to get it.
Russ said that she was saying it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, listen, I understand that if it's not for the fans, the game is not what it is. But listen, man, lines do not need to be crossed.
Exactly.
Okay? And there are plenty of fans who go to games who don't do this. So I just
and everyone's happy.
Right? Who boo the opposing team and cheer on their home team. Cool. You can do that without crossing the line. And again, part of it is on us as media members because the larger media entity loves to show, well, this is how you're a passionate fan by yelling. And listen, you can be a passionate fan without crossing the line. You want to paint yourself gold or whatever silly color your team is, knock yourself out.
Exactly.
You can be passionate that way. There is no need to get into these verbal spats or assaults.
Like tangled.
You're like all tangled in that wire.
Tangled in this wire.
From a personal standpoint, it is just unnecessary. And again, these are things you could not say in your place of work. You wouldn't go to work and tell a coworker, like, that's not a thing. You're going to get fired.
Here's how I see it. At the end of the day, that statement, I don't care where you are.
Right.
It's inappropriate.
Right.
It's wrong. It comes down to common sense. Not to mention, let's talk about what happened after it.
Right.
The fan, the
Right.
male fan,
Right.
gave an interview.
With the local TV, who,
Yeah.
of course, local media is going to side with the fan because that just fits the narrative. But, you know.
Yeah. The fan made no mention
Right.
of this statement that
Right.
Russ claims he said.
Right.
So right there, it's
Listen.
questionable. And I'm not talking about against Russ.
Right.
I'm talking about,
Right.
okay, are
Right.
you playing the innocent card? I was here to see Westbrook,
He
this
played
and
the
that.
victim.
Of course. And then Russ comes out in the post game and he says, to me that's completely disrespectful. He said he thought it was racial. He said
Right.
it was inappropriate. There was no protection for the players.
Exactly.
And then he said, I've been in the league 11 years. I've
Right.
never had an issue.
Has not.
I have a clean slate, quote unquote, clean slate.
He sure does.
And he did mention that specifically when he travels to Utah,
Yes.
this is the treatment that he gets.
Yes. So it is widely known around the league that Utah is one of the worst places for visiting players to be from the standpoint of what the fans say to the players. Now, I want to be clear. This is not all Utah Jazz fans.
No.
Right?
No. Just
clearly,
this one that clearly
the majority
ruined
of
it.
Utah Jazz fans are perfectly fine and can do their thing. But there is a segment of fans in Utah that cross the line. And again, it's not that difficult to not cross the line.
No. It's stupidity,
It really,
in my opinion.
It really isn't. It's not that hard. You come to a game, again, Westbrook is one of the most polarizing players in the league. In visiting arenas, when he's on the road, he gets it all. And you never see him react this way. So clearly, this fan crossed the line.
Absolutely.
You know how many people say, oh, Westbrook, you stink. That's why KD... Listen.
He listens to this every day.
Cool. Kill him with all that stuff. No problem.
Uh-huh.
Why are you going that extra step?
Yep.
What is the reason for that?
Because it's people being petty. They're not thinking. They're not using their brains. And they're thinking, like you said, oh, he's not going to touch me. I'm untouchable, this and that. I'm sorry. That line you're crossing, it's not a wall. He's going to come for you if you cross a certain line.
Listen, and it's this thing where these so many, and I was looking at some of the responses on Twitter, which, of course, is always like a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
But, so many fans are like, he should just shut up and take his millions of dollars and just deal with it. And
here we go again.
And again,
what does this have to do with money?
I sound like a broken record, but the money it's irrelevant.
No.
And people need to get that out of their heads. Again, that is the business they're in and the league they play in that allows them to generate and earn the kind of income they do. That does not mean they should be subjected to being harassed in that manner at work.
No one should be. Exactly. It's harassment in the workplace.
In the workplace.
That's exactly what it is. And people take this extremely lightly, but I'm sorry, harassment in the workplace is especially
a serious thing.
Serious topic
And
right
think
now.
about it.
And that is that.
Right. And we allow fans to go up to a certain point, which is booing and heckling. Right?
Yeah.
We allow that. That's not allowed in the normal workplace.
No.
So
just because they're in an arena
right.
and it's loud, that doesn't mean they're not at work.
That's right. They are at work. Yes. It's
work.
It's entertainment or a game to you, but it's work and their livelihoods for them.
Exactly.
And again, when they are there doing their thing, you don't need to cross the line. And it's just, something needs to be done from a league perspective. And the thing is, I don't know what's going to be done. You and I love praising Adam and the NBA, and we do. We think they're the best league in the world. We think Adam's the best commissioner. But that doesn't mean they're infallible and they can't be criticized.
No, not at all. If they don't do something for this, they, rightfully so, should be criticized.
And I think, look, I understand the public and the fan pay money, et cetera. I get all that. But there should be some level of protection for the players from this, number one. And number two, this isn't the customer's always right situation. It's just not.
No.
And guess what? This idea that, we don't want to antagonize the fans. Listen, this game is so great. You don't think that if you eliminate that, there isn't going to be someone right behind who knows how to behave, who will buy those tickets?
Exactly.
Stop.
It's not like this is a one-stop shop.
Stop.
And speaking of doing things, I was extremely pleased to see today on social media that Donovan Mitchell
yep. Utah Jazz's own Donovan Mitchell. Yep.
Yes, stepped up with a lengthy statement showing his disapproval of the fans' behavior and the Utah Jazz fandom as well, and saying that he wants to step in to make sure through his own foundation, Spida Cares, that this gets tackled and taken care of and that this is affected in Utah. And he's received so much praise for it. D. Wade and LBJ, LeBron James also sided with Russ.
Yep.
And Donovan Mitchell in his statement, it was a direct disapproval of everything, and it was a direct call to action to other teams and players to around the league to do something about this. And I'm so happy that this is happening.
This needs to happen.
It is unfortunate that players do need to step up first, but I hope the league comes behind them, which I do think they will. And I think that new rules and things will be implemented to make sure that these players are more protected.
Kudos to the Utah Jazz for doing the investigation, finding out what went down, and saying, oh, well, this is not allowed. You're out of here. Not allowed to come to our arena.
And now for the people who were against Russ in this argument, he was not let out without anything.
Right. $25,000 fine.
Fined $25,000 for directing profanity and threatening language to a fan.
Right.
So both sides were disciplined.
Right.
I think the discipline was fair on both sides.
I 100%
now it's
agree.
How we move forward.
100% agree on that.
Right. And now we need to get into the nitty-gritty of this playoff race because, Jarod, how far away from the playoffs are we?
We are a week. No, not a week, a month. Sorry,
I got
excited.
Oh, my God. I was like, wait, we got a lot to do.
We are a month away from the playoffs.
Yes, we
April
are.
13th. Yeah.
Yes, we are. And we need to talk about the red hot
Houston Rockets.
Woo! Because the Rockets, okay, do they have a number one shot at the number one seed?
They
are they the top here right now?
They sure do. So we're recording this on Wednesday, March 13th. The Rockets travel to the Warriors travel to Houston tonight to play the Golden State Warriors. To play the Houston Rockets
on March 13th.
Yep. So, and as it stands right now, they are, I believe, 3.5 games back of the Warriors.
Let me break this down here, okay? The Rockets, they extended their NBA best win streak to 9 games on March 11th, Monday, with a victory over the Charlotte Hornets, 118-106, okay?
They're doing it.
And that was obviously behind a stellar performance from James Harden, 28 points. No surprise there. Right now, cooking. Right now, they're tied for the 3rd seed in the West, right behind the Warriors. They're tied with the Pacers. Now.
No. They are the number 3 seed. They are 3.5 games back of the Warriors. They are not tied with anybody. They're a full game ahead of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're 2 games back of the Nuggets.
So much happens in a week.
All right, listen.
So now let's talk about this. Now, do the Rockets really have a chance at dethroning the Warriors? Because let's remind everybody, since we are still reeling from it, they took them to 7 games last year.
0 of 27.
And that was with an injured Chris Paul.
And 0 of 27. And 0 of 27.
Exactly. Now, if they can stay healthy through the postseason, especially Chris Paul, I think they have a real shot at this. I mean, let's talk about how they beat the Dubs 3 times already this year. And now they're playing tonight, March 13th.
So here, and it's a lot to unpack, here's what's exciting about this. Because I said it last year. I picked the Warriors to win in 7 last year, and they damn sure almost did it.
And they're not having the easiest route to a championship
and
this
remember,
year.
Last year, everyone seems like, oh, they lost Chris Paul. They didn't have him in Game 6 and Game 7. The Rockets had a lead in the second half of both Game 6 and Game 7. It took a Chris Paul injury and a historic 0 of 27 from 3 run for them to lose that series.
That's like hard. It's hard.
That's like all things aligning.
Literally.
Right? For the Warriors to win.
I don't know if they're going to get that lucky this year.
They may not. And here's the thing. The Rockets are gelling and are peaking at the right time. Okay? You already said they played the Warriors 3 times this year. They're already 3-0. So whether they win or lose tonight doesn't matter because they've already got the season series wrapped up. So at the end of the year, if their records are tied, the Rockets get the tiebreaker because head-to-head, they won the season series. Now, I know for sure the Rockets would like to sweep them in the regular season, go up 4-0. Also, by the way, for the Warriors, no Kevin Durant tonight, so it's an
ankle injury,
right? Even better chance for them to really take the Warriors down. And look,
and they haven't had back-to-back winnings in about a month.
No, and here's what I think. I think the Rockets are primed to really, all things align well for them. They can push the Warriors again and possibly win this time. Look, the key, of course, as you said, is Chris Paul being healthy. He missed a large chunk of the regular season, and it seems like every year he's dealing with some kind of injury. Well, here's the hope that the injury bug already hit him early, and he'll be fine through the playoffs.
Prayers up, dear.
That's
Prayers up.
number 1. Number 2, and this is tough because in order for the Rockets to get the number 1 seed, that means they're going to have to keep playing their guys and doing all their stuff. And you know how we talk about playing their guys too many minutes, Harden tiring out in the playoffs. And Harden said he changed his workout routine for this season specifically, lifting more during the season so he's stronger going into the playoffs late in the series. Because that's the key. him playing to his level late in a playoff series is what's going to drive them. Look,
Very
the
true.
Rockets aren't afraid of anybody.
No,
okay?
they proved that already.
They've proven they can win on the road. They
Yep.
can, so 1 seed, 2 seed, it doesn't matter. But they have a legit shot. And if they win tonight, they'll only be 2.5 games back of the Warriors. And listen, because the Warriors, let's be honest, they're sputtering, right? They're sort of, look.
They are.
A large part of it is they're bored with the regular season. That is true. But it's also, as we've talked about numerous times,
It's not an excuse to be dropping games
it's
and
not
slacking off.
It's not that it's an excuse. It's just that it's what it is, as we've talked about, that third title in a three-peat is the hardest one to win because first of all, you're just tired of this. You're playing basketball into late June every year. And this iteration of the Warriors, this isn't the third finals they're going to. This is the 5th in a row finals they're going to, right? They won once, lost, and then won the last 2. This will be their 5th straight finals. Like, playing this kind of basketball, it's high intensity, late into June every year, plus the Olympic years. Look, this wears on you.
Not to mention their chemistry is off this season.
It's definitely off this season.
There's no secret there.
Look, no secret there. The KD free agency's hanging over them. What's Klay Thompson going to do?
KD's injured for the first time in a minute.
In the first time this season, he turned his ankle against the Phoenix Suns. Listen, it's just, again, and we'll see it as we talked about that Bulls documentary that's coming out this year, talking about chronicling the Bulls' last three-peat. The stories that are going to come out from that. It'll be the same thing with this. There's a reason why in the history of the NBA, only a handful of teams have three-peated, because it's freaking hard.
Yeah.
The great San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich, they never even gone back-to-back. Forget about three-peat. Like, it is hard to three-peat.
We shall see.
It's very hard. And so, listen, they are ripe for the picking. And if there's a team that can do it out west, it is the Houston Rockets.
I completely agree. Right there. And on that note, we'll also say congrats to Daryl Morey, who reportedly reached a 5-year contract extension. Are we surprised with that GM move?
Nope.
No.
As Bill Simmons dubs him, the Dork Elvis. Yes, listen, Morey's a great GM. The Rockets, he's done a great job of building a title contender down in Houston, a perennial title contender. What I'll be curious to see is what happens going forward with that team, as James gets older. I mean, James still in his prime, but Chris Paul's on the tail end of his prime, right?
Well, they got to get some young talent.
Well, and it's going to be hard with that massive contract that Paul has because you're not moving that. So
nope, that's like a John Wall-sized contract.
You got that right, and you got Harden locked up to a lot of money, so there's not a whole lot of wiggle room.
Rightfully so.
It'll be very interesting to see how Daryl handles that going forward. But here's the thing: they win the title this year. Who cares?
Here's the
it's
thing.
all worth it.
Last thing I'll say about the Rockets.
Yeah.
I believe they have the best chance at dethroning the Golden State Warriors if Chris Paul is healthy.
Yes.
If they keep this defensive resurgence going.
Well, that's the key for them, right? Because their defense, so the majority of the season, was poor.
Yes.
It's much better
if
now.
Harden doesn't get gas laid on, and that's also a role of D'Antoni's that he needs to play with his minutes.
The other thing, too, is that I'm loving about the Rockets, and we're still talking about them. The role players are really playing well for them. Eric Gordon,
PJ Tucker,
Austin Rivers. I mean, those guys are really Kenneth Faried.
Major role players stepping in when it's needed. And
listen, that's what you need in the playoffs.
If the chemistry's going and the stars are aligning, they have a real shot. I mean, they took them to 7 games.
And the thing is, again,
last year, so
the Rockets are not afraid. They know they can go into Oracle and win on the road. So they're not worried about it.
They're very poised and very calm winning on the road.
They know who they are.
Yep.
Right? And
they found their identity.
And in many ways, if it's a Rockets-Warriors series, the pressure really isn't on the Rockets.
No, it's on the Warriors.
The Warriors are the one going for history.
Great point.
The Warriors are the one going for history.
Well, you know that, number one, they're going for history. It's going to be a test of their chemistry going forward. And not to mention, if they don't win that title, bye-bye, KD.
I mean, he's probably leaving most likely anyway.
And while we're on the topic of the Warriors, Draymond Green just signed with Clutch Sports.
He sure did.
Can you tell me who also is signed by Clutch Sports?
I think some basketball player named LeBron James. Not sure if you ever heard of him.
Probably like second unit guys.
Anthony Davis, I think, is another guy that's on Clutch. Eric Bledsoe. Contavious Caldwell-Pope. No, listen.
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. Listen, Clutch is doing a great job.
Yes,
and for Draymond's looking at this from a post-career standpoint. Look, it's also...
And that's a smart move.
It's twofold, right? One, and this is the sort of elephant in the room, next summer, not the summer coming up, not 2019, 2020, when Draymond's a free agent, that's going to be a very interesting negotiation with the Warriors.
Yes, it
because
is.
let's assume that KD's gone, right? What are the Warriors going to max out Draymond? That's what he's going to want. Yeah, look at your face. You're like,
I'm not sure he's worth a max contract.
But he's going to probably want that or close to it.
Exactly. I completely agree. I think he will. But can you imagine if he was a free agent this summer?
Oh, my God.
He'd be the last one to get a big check.
So here's the interesting thing about Draymond, right? His highest value is on the Warriors. That's where he really, you see his full game on display because of what he means to that team, right? If you put him on a team like Orlando or Miami, or it's not, you're not going to see what you see him doing with the Golden State Warriors.
No.
Now, it was a great squad for him to play for. But it won't work, just whatever. But a squad like the Milwaukee Bucks, right, with Giannis, and because then again, when Draymond is surrounded with other elite talent, that's when his game shines because he can facilitate, he can defend, he can do all the different things. Draymond is not the lead guy that you build around on.
No.
He's not that.
You're not going to build your franchise around him
he isn't
whatsoever.
That. But he is the guy. You put him with elite talent, like he's that dude. He'll get them set up defensively. Listen,
he makes others around him better.
He does in that way, yes.
Yes.
So he's a very unique player, the only player in the league that's like that. So it'll be interesting to see next summer, not 2019 but 2020, what they do. And if by some strange miracle, not even miracle, but just he changes his mind, KD decides to re-up with the Warriors, Draymond's out of there.
Bye.
They're trading him for sure.
Yes. And honestly, I believe that there is a fit for him on another team, so we shall see. Now, let's flip the switch back to the chippy side of things because things went down this past week with the Cavs and Toronto.
Monday night, yeah.
Serge Ibaka, Toronto's power forward, and Marquise Chris, Cavs power forward as well, got into a little bit of a scuffle. Okay,
a little bit. Jeez.
I was trying to go gently into this, but there was maybe a potential choke slam and a punch or two or three. So let's jump in here, okay? Now, how do I even go to break this down? So these two meet on the court, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay. Serge Ibaka, he's suspended for 3 games without pay,
right.
And Chris is without pay for 1.
Yep.
Now, you will notice that the difference is
2 games.
2 games.
Right.
Why is it 2 games? Well, Serge Ibaka went right up, grabbed Chris, which appears to look by the neck, and then the two go blow to blow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
throws
punches
up
are
against the
thrown.
stanchion. Oh, yeah.
Yep, punches are thrown, everything. Now, Ibaka's suspension was based on the instigation of the physical altercation, where he appeared to grab Chris by the throat before he punched him, along with his prior history of fighting in the NBA, and Chris's suspension was based on throwing a punch at Serge Ibaka in return.
Right.
Now, Chris already served his on March 12th in a loss to the Sixers.
Right.
And
the Cavs are losing every game anyway. Who cares?
Very true, but
they're tanking for Zion, so who cares?
Exactly. So Ibaka will be serving his suspension on Thursday when the Raptors host the LA Lakers, and that's when his will start. 3 games consecutive in a row.
Yep.
What are your thoughts? Because a lot of people were mixed about this because a lot of people want fighting in the NBA. They feel like it's a little too soft, but I personally thought this was too much.
Okay.
I'm all down for the pushing, the trash talk, separation from the refs, but the throat?
There's this idea that the NBA has gone soft, that it's not as physical as it used to be like in the 80s and 90s. And you can go back through NBA films.
The old heads will say that.
Of course they do. And you watch, good Lord, for crying out loud, Kurt Rambis got clothesline going to the lane in the Lakers-Celtics finals game. Kermit Washington knocked Reed Tomjanovich out with a punch.
Yikes.
The NBA used to be a lot more physical. Obviously, David Stern outlawed a lot of that stuff. And the NBA is a TV product, right? And there are reasons why I'm not going to get into on this podcast today because it's much more layered and nuanced. But people, you're smart enough, read between the lines. Visually, it doesn't look right if NBA players are fighting. Read what you want into that, but you get what I'm saying. It doesn't look right for their customer base, for their sponsors, right? But you say, what about hockey? Yeah, hockey's a lot different. Just, again, look at who plays hockey, look at who plays in the NBA. It's just, that's all I got to say about that, right? It just doesn't look right to many people if NBA guys are fighting. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm totally cool with this kind of, reaction because look, these guys they're competitors, man. Testosterone is flying around that place.
Yeah,
It's just,
shows your passion for the game.
and so I'm watching it, and these two were getting into a little bit, battling for position, chicken winging each other, what have you. And when Serge went to the ground, and I freeze framed it and watched it a couple times, because I'm like, well, what would make Serge just get up out of nowhere and just go for the neck and choke him and then whatever?
Right.
So I freeze framed it and paused, and I saw Marquise Chris definitely said something to him, and he said something along the lines of the B word and some other expletives along with that, right?
Draymond says it every 5 seconds.
Well, but and for whatever reason, that word, I don't know what. I mean, I can probably guess why.
What, you little bitch?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
If somebody came up to you and was like, you little bitch, and then looking down at you on the ground,
God
damn.
It gets these dudes so heated.
That's like a trigger for them, yeah.
It is
It's like saying, like,
yeah.
it's a girl that's, when you're saying to her, like, a woman, like,
Yes, words we probably won't repeat on this podcast.
Yeah, you're the F word, like, you're FAT or this and that. Like, you just don't say certain things to certain people. You don't look at Steph and go, you can't shoot. You can't shoot.
So it got Serge fired up. He went straight for the throat. Tried to chokeslam him, pushed him up against the stanchion, and started throwing punches.
Thank God it was there.
None of which he landed, by the way, from what I saw.
No, swing and a miss.
Yeah, Serge has got to work on his punch rate, his landing of punches thrown to actual hits. But look, here's what it is.
Mayweather's got some time off. They can meet up in the
Is what it is. Not much ado about nothing.
No.
These guys
it ended right after that.
It's fine. But I just. A little bit of that is fine for the game,
For sure,
once it doesn't escalate into full-out brawls, all good.
As long
as
as it's a little tamed. Like
Right.
we said, there's lines and they shouldn't be crossed.
Right.
They didn't cross it, whatever.
No full-out brawls.
We Gucci. Speaking of brawls, let's move on to James Dolan,
Oh, Lord.
New York Knicks owner, as we famously or infamously know. Not really sure how you guys want to take that one, but listen to this one, Jarod.
Yep.
So fans are coming at him, telling him to sell the team, you suck, this and that, blah, blah,
right.
blah. And Dolan has a fan banned for life. Talk about petty. Now, is he being petty?
So here's what's interesting. So we just talked about
Or did the fan,
how you can't cross the line, right?
set him up?
And it's interesting. It's the same with players as it is with owners. You shouldn't cross the line with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I saw in the video and what was said, it doesn't seem to me as though the fan crossed the line. He said, you should sell the team.
Okay, that's an opinion. He's not saying anything bad.
I mean, cool.
Maybe he wants him to sell the team so he can vacation longer. You didn't
well,
know.
we know why he wants to sell the team.
I know. I'm just saying, look at the technicalities of it.
True.
That fan has a defense.
And look, and here's the thing. The reason why that story's out there is because Dolan talked about it in an interview.
Yeah.
Right? He mentioned offers, people talk about it, but no one's come with a serious offer. But if someone did come with a serious offer, I'd have to consider it because, again, the Knicks are part of MSG Holdings, a publicly traded corporation, which means he has shareholders. And it is his fiduciary responsibility as the chairman of MSG Holdings to let his shareholders know when an offer is made for one of the subsidiaries of the holding company, right? So if someone comes...
Gerard used to have a way bigger boy job for this because I didn't understand a word of that.
So when an offer is legitimately made, that's what you got to do. Now,
okay,
saying that he should sell the team, that isn't crossing the line.
No.
And this is
so.
This is where Dolan is just petty.
Well, of course.
And it's just unnecessary, dude.
So can this really happen though? Can he really have this fan banned?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Of course he can.
But
it's his arena. He can do whatever he wants.
Come on.
He can do whatever he wants.
All right.
It's and here's the thing to me that I think about. If I'm a free agent, me personally, I would not want to work for an organization that an owner is like that, to me. Because it just shows me that, dude, you should be above all that. You think I should sell the team? Great, I'm a billionaire. I'm going to go home and count my billions. That's what I'd be saying.
Well, it's interesting.
I'm like, really? Because to me, that is indicative of how you run your business when you are petty about silly things like that, to me.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up free agents because James Dolan himself doesn't think that there's anything wrong with the Knicks and that they will land free agents and that they will make the playoffs. Are you ready for this? Did you see this interview? Okay.
He was on the Michael K. show, yeah.
Yeah, he was on the Michael K. show. And he states literally that he thinks they're going to make the playoffs, that, they're going to get free agents. And if they do get the right people, they will make the playoffs. Let me make that correct.
Right,
James
right.
Dolan, yeah. Mm-hmm. He says on the Michael Kay show, look, in New York, it's the mecca of basketball. We hear from people, players, representatives all the time about people who want to come here. And we can't respond because of rules. And that doesn't stop people from telling us this and that. Basically, he really does think that they have a shot at getting some big names in free agency in 2019, and that if they do, they will make the playoffs. Is this too far-fetched, or
look,
is Dolan onto something?
We know the rumors that have been circulating, not just this year, from years past, about Kevin Durant coming here possibly, about him bringing Kyrie with him, about if they get the number 1 pick in the draft, will they move things out to get Anthony Davis? Yes, there's a lot of smoke around that, and we always say, where there's smoke, there's generally fire, right? So, and we know the Knicks have 2 max slots available this summer.
After trading Kristaps Porzingis and Courtney Lee and a bunch of other players,
to sign 2 maximum free agent guys. Who those guys will be, we don't know as of right now.
Well.
Now, here's the thing, though. Again, and I go back to this. During that Michael Kay interview, he was mentioning some of the players that are currently on his squad. I don't know if the Michael Kay interview, obviously it's simulcast on radio and on TV on the Yes Network.
Mm-hmm.
Dolan was talking about some of his current players on his current roster. Jenna, he didn't even know their names. He had a sheet of paper in front of him with his players' names. Then he's like, we got guys like Noah Vonleh.
No.
How do you not even know the
Because he only knew Kristaps Porzingis. That's it.
Listen, and again, if I'm a big-time free agent, if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm Kyrie Irving, do I want to come to this franchise? Me personally, no.
Especially guys like KD and Kyrie who don't really enjoy dramatics in the media.
Well, so here's part of the thing with that, and it's funny that you brought that up. I think a lot of that's overblown. It isn't like the New York media has all of a sudden way more media than Golden State or Boston.
James Dolan's attraction to the media because of the things that come out of his mouth.
And again, if I'm Durant and if I'm Irving, I'm like, why do I want to be around that circus? Because it's literally a circus.
Well, speaking of a circus, okay, we have, SI reported this today, quote unquote, he, meaning James Dolan, is and always will be the reason they, the New York Knicks, do not get free agents. This is from, allegedly, an NBA executive talking about Dolan and the Knicks.
So it was on background. So it was an anonymous NBA executive told SI.
Yes. Now, like we said, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Kemba Walker, Klay Thompson, they all hit the free market on July 1st.
Jimmy Butler, a lot of people.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler as well, and more. They all hit the market on July 1st. Do you think that's enough of a time window for the Knicks to attract these types of names?
Let's pull the curtain back a little bit and let everybody into the secret goings-ons of the NBA. This isn't something where like July 1st hits and all of a sudden, guys just start talking and a deal gets done in 2 days.
No.
This stuff is going. All the motions that are going to happen in the moves are already happening right now. I know Adam's like, no tampering. Like, listen, it goes on and it happens. Again, I always say ownership and management are the greatest competitive advantage in sports when talent is equal on the playing field or on the court. If I'm a big-time free agent, again, let's use Kevin Durant as an example. I have Joe Lacob and Bob Myers as my owner and GM. You want me to leave that for James Dolan and Scott Perry and Steve Mills? And look, Scott Perry, Steve Mills, they're starting to turn things around, I guess, culture-wise. But Dolan is still the head of that snake. Do I really want to be involved in that when I have an owner who's already showed that they are in the Kevin Durant business? They want to do whatever it takes to keep me. Again, if I'm Kyrie Irving, do I want to leave Wick Grossbeck and Danny Ainge for James Dolan and who? Again, it's just to go to a situation that let's be honest about the Knicks, for the last 20 years has been, let's just be kind, not good. Right?
You're so nice.
I mean, what I really want to say is there's been a dumpster fire, right? But
they might be the OG.
I mean, this team hasn't been good aside from that one playoff series or one playoff game they did when Carmelo was here. But I mean, this franchise has not been good.
Well, okay. I'm going to turn this around a little bit, and I'm not siding with James Dolan whatsoever. But
Yeah.
I believe that James Dolan and the Knicks are obviously in the conversation still for people in free agency.
Sure.
Because we're not playing in like South Dakota here.
Right. It is New York City.
It's the Mecca. It's
Madison
New York
Square
City.
Garden. But that's
legendary
the thing.
arena.
That's what you're coming for, is the arena. You're not coming for James Dolan. And
Exactly.
It's
but
the arena and the history of the franchise, which, by the way, the only good history is the 70s when Clyde Frazier and them won 2 championships. Remember, those 90s teams, while everyone loved Patrick Ewing, they didn't win any chips.
It's just, like we said, it's just the feeling in MSG, the arena. I mean, you hear players like Wade and LeBron all the time talking about the feeling of playing in MSG and this and that. I think if 2 guys can get together, we will use KD and Kyrie as an example.
Just because they're the ones that are in the right.
Exactly, because they're in the pool of free agency. I think if 2 guys get together, I think they can change this franchise around. And, it'll take some time, but give them some good playoff runs and this and that. If Dolan can
look, let's be honest.
ease his way out of situations.
KD and Kyrie join this team this summer, they're instantly a title contender. I mean, that's just
absolutely,
because that's just how good they are.
But, not to mention they're looking for stars, obviously. They have 2 max slots opened up. I mean, there are 2 nice shiny seats in New York. It is a losing team, but that can change very quickly.
You bring KD and really anybody, but KD and they're gonna instantly change the fortune of that franchise. Not to mention,
I have a mean to get some new Knicks gear.
Not to mention whatever pick they get in this upcoming draft. Right?
Can you imagine if they get Zion?
Oh, I mean, then it's just like it's out of control. But
those Knicks games are gonna be packed again.
But then here's the thing. Again, if I'm KD and Kyrie, do I want to play with Zion Williamson? Established stars.
Duke?
But
Kyrie went to Duke.
Yeah, but for like 2 minutes. Established stars.
Best 2 minutes of their lives.
Don't like to play with young guys. They just don't. No matter how touted they are.
Yeah.
They don't like playing with young guys.
Because the spotlight goes on the young guys, especially Zion, who's predicted to be the next LBJ to some.
It's not even that. It's just that as good as, first of all, we have no idea how good Zion's going to be. People think he's going to, but we don't know. He's not going to be ready to step in on day one and be a championship-level player. Like, that's just not – and guess what? KD and Kyrie, they playing for chips. So they're much rather going to be like –
KD.
They're going to be like, let's get rid of that, right, that number 1 pick, and see if we can get someone else who we know is already proven who can play at this level, whether that be Anthony Davis or whomever.
Yeah.
Right? So, again, who knows? I still think this executive, there's truth to that, right? Listen, when was the last time the Knicks got a big-time free agent? Free agent.
Was I alive?
Yep. Okay, next.
Alrighty, let's move on here. And we will stick on the topic of Kyrie and KD because Charles Barkley had some very interesting things to say. Now, let me set you guys up here. About a few days ago, maybe even a week or 2, Charles Barkley comes out and says that Kyrie he's the most miserable person he's ever seen, this and that. A lot of people had a lot of disagreements with that. Okay. But now he's coming out and talking about in news statements that Kyrie and KD, they might not be fit to play in New York because they can't handle the big stage there and this and that because of their similarities of having negative media experiences. So I'm going to read a little bit here, and then I'm going to ask you, does he have a point? Is he right? Does he bring up certain things?
Read on.
Here's the quote. I don't think Durant and Kyrie are tough enough to play in New York. Kyrie's a very good player. Kevin's a great, great player. But I'm not sure they have the mental makeup to play in New York. Those guys are complaining about the media, asking questions. Maybe New York isn't for them.
So,
does he have a point?
You know, Chuck is one of my all-time favorite players and one of the funniest guys on TV. There is some truth to what Chuck is saying. I'm not going to attack KD and Kyrie mentally. I think we get down a slippery slope when we go there. And, you know, a lot of the language Chuck is using, this idea of, like, are they tough enough? You know, that's just rooted in a lot of just sort of...
It's Chuck.
It's Chuck, but it's just, you know, a lot of sort of old school very like male testosterone jock sort of like, are you tough? Are you not? Are you this? Are you that?
Well, he followed it up with, there's no doubt in my mind that if you can win here, you are set for life. This will be the biggest question.
Right. So here's the thing. At times, can KD and Kyrie be sensitive and touchy when it comes to the media? Absolutely, 100%. Here's what's interesting about all of that, though. Look at KD and Kyrie's numbers this year. Does it seem to be affecting them on the floor in terms of their play?
No.
They're balling, right? So if the price of getting two ballers is they might be jerks a couple days in the medias or snarky or
outweigh the pros and cons.
I think the pros might outweigh that, right? Because it has not affected them on the court. Like, their play on the court has been stellar this season.
He would have a point, though, if it was the opposite and their numbers weren't performing.
Yes. If it caused them to go into slumps and not play well, then you could be like, oh, well, they can't handle this. But they haven't shown that they'll start to play poorly. They play well. Here's what I think is a large part of this, and something Chuck doesn't, and a lot of the older players just don't get. The ways in which the media cycle works now is very different. And there now is no longer first of all, social media didn't exist during Chuck's playing day, right? But, and you know as a millennial, and obviously we work in media, there is no line between actual media and social media, right? These players don't know what that line is because I'm in locker rooms all the time. As soon as they're done playing, coach gives them the breakdown, whatever, after the win or loss, whatever, you know what they're all doing? On their phones. Right? And they're all checking who's saying this about what. And that constant feeding of whether it's negative or positive on top of then the actual media, right? People who write articles for The Athletic or USA Today or whatever your local beat is. That's a lot of stimuli constantly.
For sure.
Right? So,
and now beat reporters are also more deep in the locker rooms than they've ever been.
Right. So it's a lot of information to consume about yourself, right? That literally every time you play, every time you literally sneeze, someone's writing about it, right?
Very true.
So
we talked about this last week.
That's just a lot. Again, it's not an excuse. It's just a statement of fact of that is how this world is right now.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot. And so I think at times that drives these guys nuts and it causes them to lash out and say, I don't want to deal with this crap. This is annoying. And I get it, right? Now, on the other hand, you can't get mad at the media and then want to promote your movies. And look, it's a very complicated, blurred line, and with the advent of technology and how it's moving forward, we're never going to change that. This is just where we are right now. So players are going to have to find new mechanisms and new ways to cope with this kind of attention and intensity. Because I'd be very curious, all these guys like Chuck and all these guys who talk about these players, I would love to see how they would react to when they played had it been like that. Because also, the journalist-player relationship now is much different than it was back then. Much, much different.
Absolutely. I agree with you when you say that Chuck may not have a point because it's not affecting their play and their numbers and their performance.
Mm-hmm.
Where Chuck could have a point is we're having this conversation about mental health and different things like that within the league. And as we mentioned last week, the NBA has been super candid about it as well as some of its players. So I think the mental aspect is definitely something to weigh when you're going to franchises like New York, LA, different things like that, even Rockets, stuff like that. But I would weigh on your side more that I don't think it's going to be the biggest question. It could be a question,
sure,
but not the biggest for these two guys.
And to his point, if they win, it ain't gonna matter. These guys will never have to buy a drink in New York the rest of their lives, right? And honestly, all they got to do is win one title, just one, not even two, or one chip, and New Yorkers will love them forever. Here's the other thing: think about it from you and I and our standpoint. We always joke around off air like, Jenna, what if the Denver Nuggets said, okay, we want you to be our in-game whatever? Jarod, what if the Milwaukee Bucks said, look.
For the right job, your girl's going.
for the right job, you're going wherever. But you also are going to weigh certain things, right?
For sure.
Is this environment where I actually want to be? Yes, I love the NBA. Do I want to live in Denver? Do I want to live in San Francisco? Wherever these places, right? And so these guys have to think about this. And again, it's a little bit different for them because they're on the road a bunch of the time. But again, a lot of your time is still spent in the city. Is this where I want to actually be?
Especially if they have young kids, they're raising families,
all that.
and they're schooling.
And that's something that fans don't think about. It's like when you're gonna accept a new job, you think a lot of things into consideration.
Your whole life's about to change.
Same thing for these guys.
For sure.
And they gotta think, is this where I want to go?
I think we're very good at humanizing this conversation because a lot of people, especially fans, and they're not to blame because they don't get it as much as we see it.
They forget they're human beings.
They forget that they're human beings. Yes. It's like when we see celebrities and athletes, we
Right.
don't freak out because that's our life and
No
our
big deal.
work.
Right.
But fans,
Right.
they do because they don't necessarily get it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's an excuse to treat people poorly.
Absolutely not.
But sometimes they just do not even know what's on the other side of
they forget because, look,
the door.
It's very easy to get caught up into your own life and your own day-to-day. And when you go to a game or a movie or whatever, you're like, oh, these people are just here to entertain me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yes, they are, but they're doing their job entertaining you. So always remember that, right?
Yes.
They're people first.
And let's wrap it up here with a topic that we just keep going back to, but it's a different type of vibe this week. Kyrie Irving. He seems to be, as some would say, flip-flopping a little bit between his attitude and his apologies for his attitude. Okay? After a 120-107 win over the Lakers on March 9th, he spoke to Yahoo Sports' Chris Haynes. We cite him a lot here on the pod. He's a very good
Chris
source.
is awesome.
Yes. And Chris said in a video accompanied by an article that Kyrie seemed to be on a positive high. He caught him on a good note, okay? He says that Kyrie apologized for the way he's been handling the media. As we mentioned before, Kyrie hasn't been as talkative in the media. He hasn't been answering questions. A lot of people are taking it as a major cold shoulder because of the dramatics that are going on in Boston. As you all know, they can't really seem to get the team chemistry together and have been open about it. So, Chris Haynes says he spoke to Kyrie on Saturday, and Kyrie let out a pretty lengthy apology, which I won't read the whole thing because it's very long, but I have highlighted some things here. He says, quote unquote, the way I've handled things, it hasn't been perfect, he tells Haynes. I've made a lot of mistakes that I take full responsibility for. I apologize. I haven't done it perfectly. I haven't said the right things all the time. I don't want to sit on a place like I'm on a pedestal for anybody. I'm a normal human being who makes mistakes. For me, I think that's because I was fixated on how I was trying to prove other people wrong. I got into a lot of habits that were bad, like reading stuff and reacting emotionally. That's not who I am. Pause right there. You just mentioned this is a different time. Social media exists now. These guys are dealing with so many more mental aspects in the game than OGs did back in the day before the internet, before social media. Talk to me a little bit about this.
So here's what's interesting. Before the Celtics went out to their West Coast road trip, they had a long flight from Boston out to LA. And a large part of that flight was Kyrie, after talking to Brad Stevens, apparently spoke to the team and, apologized for some of the things he was doing. And that's an extension of that you heard from Yahoo's Chris Haynes.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Kyrie's what, 26, I want to say?
I think he's about 26, 27.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we all forget how we mature and develop as we age, right? Like, who you were at 19 generally is very different than who you were at 25, than who you were at 30, and so on. Then the thing about these guys is they have to do their growing up in the public sphere, right? Which is not easy. And again, I can hear them now. But Jarod, they make all this money. Like,
I am so sick of money.
Like,
I love money, but I'm
right.
so sick of it when
Like,
it comes to the NBA.
That doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, great. Like, so what? That doesn't absolve you from being a human and going through normal human growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look, and think about your own lives. Some of those growth periods, and I know for myself, they were ugly periods of like learning how to handle certain things, learning how to mature, learning how to be an adult, right? And especially in that kind of setting, in a team setting where you come and you're the new guy, and you got to be the leader, and you want to prove people wrong, and there's a lot of competing things. And so, look, I can sympathize and empathize with Kyrie on this level, right? Because he's trying to, again, figure out who he is as a person, right? Who he is in the NBA, and who is he as a leader on this Celtics team, right?
His first year as a leader,
right?
And he's
right.
going through the motions.
And here's the thing: you do things based upon how you've been taught and what you've learned prior. Okay, he I mean, think about it. Kyrie's growth and leadership, who did he learn under? LeBron James. And I don't want to get into a referendum on what kind of a leader LeBron is,
it's
right?
so exhausting.
Because there's a lot there.
Yeah.
But maybe the way LeBron leads isn't the way that Kyrie should lead.
Exactly.
Maybe he should lead a different way. Maybe he should lead how he needs to learn how to lead.
And I think he's discovering that slowly but
Right.
surely. And to say what you said, how you can sympathize with Kyrie, I personally, and I'm the biggest Kyrie stan ever, but separating myself from the situation and really thinking about it,
Right.
I can too sympathize with Kyrie Irving because I'm very close in age to him.
Right.
And me personally, I'm going through
Sure.
things trying to find myself. Have I found myself completely right now? Admittedly, no.
Right.
Am I completely comfortable in my own skin?
Right.
No.
Right.
It takes time. I'm still learning.
Right.
And so is he. Just because
Right.
he's a professional athlete
Right.
and I'm not,
Right.
we still are human beings
Still learning.
who are going through the same motions at the same period of time in life.
And here's the thing. Kyrie admitted, because look, a lot of things he did not handle well, right? Like if there's a problem.
And it takes a lot for you to admit when
Sure.
you're wrong.
With your teammates, you don't call them out through the media. Like that's not how you handle that situation.
No.
Especially those are young guys underneath him, right? Tatum, Brown, these are young players.
And he's shaping
Right.
them.
And then it's Horford's in there, and then you got Gordon Hayward. There's a lot of dynamics, a lot of personalities. So it's a lot to sort of corral all of that, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? You go through growing pains. The problem, of course, is in sports, unlike real life, we don't have time to have growing pains and deal whatever. Because you're like, well, it's only an 82-game regular season. Then we got the playoffs. So all your growth is magnified because when things don't go well and chemistry is screwed up, the team goes on a 4-game losing streak.
You're right. It is magnified.
And then things start happening, and then it's like, oh, all hell's breaking loose, and it's disaster in Boston. But that's just sort of life progressions. And unfortunately, when you're a team like Boston who had such lofty expectations coming into the season, everyone's like, oh, they're going to win 60-plus games, be the number one seed. Well, those things aren't happening. Now, that's not to say that they can't turn it around in the playoffs because they're still a very good team. But look, these things happen like that sometimes. And a basketball team is not unlike a work unit in any other profession.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't have to be best friends, but everyone within a work team must know their roles and do and work to the best of their potential for the good of the team, for the team to achieve the most it can. Right? That's the key in any situation. Will this team be able to do that? Time will tell. I applaud Kyrie for admitting where he was wrong. Because look, again, as I said, there's a lot of things he handled poorly. We'll see how it all shakes out.
I applaud him for admitting when he was wrong. It takes a lot to do that, especially facing the media and addressing most likely a topic that you don't want to. So kudos to him. I think the Celtics are on the up and up. I hope. And he did say, too, I'm still learning. I come from a suburb of New Jersey. I'm not used to all this attention. I do want to read one last thing because we have been talking about mental health, and it's so important. And this is Kyrie's first time really addressing Adam's recent comments about mental health. Look, I respect the ones that came before me, but they didn't endure social media, the 24/7 news cycle. Adam Silver was right. It really affects people in different ways. These are just different times. People are dealing with anxiety, depression, and other disorders that affects their well-being. Some people can't handle all of this, and we need to be mindful of that.
I think that's the key. That's the key.
Yes.
Mindful, right?
Yes.
And I want to be clear because I know people will always be like, oh, Jarod and Jenna, you guys are always pro player. You're so soft and so easy on them.
You know how many people say that to me a day?
I know. And it's not that we're being soft or easy on them. Yes, we're generally pro player. But all we're saying is be mindful of these things, right? Just be mindful.
That's it.
Just be mindful.
And my argument about that for people who tell me you're pro player, you're always positive, you're this, you're that, you're soft. I'm sorry, but we are the people in the media who do get to spend significant time with these guys.
Sure.
So it is also part of our job to not only report the facts and the news, but to report the facts about these men on and off the court.
Absolutely.
Okay? I mean, totally off topic a little bit here, but there was a female NFL reporter who came out today in the Odell Beckham trade, whatever, and said...
Oh, Kim Jones.
Yeah, and said, people are bashing him and this and that, but when I was significantly sick and suffering health problems, he called her, or he texted her, I'm sorry, and she said, that that meant the world.
You know,
It's like, come on. This is the side that we see that they don't
see. Right. And that's the thing. Like, and there's stories that we can go to about how
for sure
athletes talk to us, like off the record or just about things in their lives.
And you build relationships.
For sure. Again, all we're saying is introduce humanity into this. Like, they're not animals at the zoo. They're people, right? Like, just like you have bad days at work, and so do they. Right?
They're entitled to it.
Right. They're not immune to having a bad day at work or having a bad week or a bad month or whatever. Like, it is what it is. And so, you know, there is a lot. And to Kyrie's point, it's true. Like, the other, you know, that generation, the Barkley generation, the ones before that, they did not go through that. Look, you know, Barkley famously had that commercial from Nike back in the day, I'm not a role model, right? Which is one of the classic Nike ads. And look, and this is not a let's bash Charles thing, but look, Charles has had his run-ins with fans before. Okay, so I again, and the further he gets away from this, I feel like you forget, right? Think about it, like that was a lot you dealt with back then, and it wasn't near the scrutiny, right? Because you got media and then you've got social media, right? And again, for a lot of the players, I don't think they see the difference. They see it as the same thing. They don't see the how the lines blur. They're like, oh, social media, you're all the same. It's like not quite all the same.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's the bombardment because what happens is, right, we have so much aggregation now in news. There's an article that comes out about whatever from a well-sourced beat reporter. What happens? Bleacher Report or whoever picks up a quote from it, puts it up with a little graphic on Instagram and on Twitter, and the athletes are like, oh, what the? It gets reached. A million people pick it up and run with it, and it goes crazy. And imagine if your life was like that. If literally every day
I would go nuts.
And again,
I would go nuts.
It's just like, oh my God, like, and it's hard, but it's like turn that. You just want to turn it off,
yep.
Like, and I hope these guys have an opportunity where they can like just get away from that stuff and just turn it off.
Sure.
And not listen to it because it's crazy. It'll drive you nuts.
Hey, Jarod, one thing that we are not turning off are the Lakers now that they have called up 33-year-old Andre Ingram. He got a standing ovation the other night. You know I love this.
Yes, he's a
lifetime G League player.
Feel-good story from last year. They called him up again this year because obviously the Lakers know they're not making the playoffs. So let's just get everybody up here and do what we can. And
I think this is special for him, too, because he gets to be by LeBron James and,
hopefully that'll help him. Look,
hopefully learn from that.
Kudos to the Lakers for bringing up Andre Ingram. It's a great feel-good story. And I hope that, we look at this more than just, this is a career G Leaguer who literally is not giving up on his dream.
No,
so I think,
and I appreciate that.
One of the things that we all could take a lesson from is, look, man, it's hard out here. Following your dream is not easy. It's actually quite difficult, right? So
difficult.
Right? So, I mean, it's awesome. Like, this guy is 33 years old, like, still trying to make it. Like, that's awesome. And if you can find some hope and inspiration out of that, go to it.
Nothing but love.
I do want to say this really quick. Maybe we'll bring this up on another episode because we're running short on time.
Yes.
We need to really talk about this Lakers team from a standpoint of, look, they're not making the playoffs, so who cares about that? And we did a little bit last week, but
where do we go from here?
Where's the blame on this for this situation that we're in right now?
We agreed it's not singular blame.
Right. I mean,
it's a mix, man. It's a mix. Something that we definitely can't cover in 2 minutes.
Some of it's on LeBron.
Yeah.
Some of it's on Magic and Rob. Look, and some of it's got to be on Jeannie too.
Oh, of course, it trickles down.
I mean, and again, and we'll talk about this another time. If they don't get Anthony Davis, which they might not, what's their plan B? Because here's the thing.
To be continued.
LeBron's not getting younger. So do we know what kind of basketball player he's going to be in 2 years?
I don't even want to think about that.
But the Lakers need to.
I
right?
know. I know.
Because their whole thing was we're bringing LeBron here to win championships. Does this look like a team that's going to win a championship anytime soon? We know this year's out, but
no, but they're also not going to have that same roster next year.
They hope.
Hey, I'm trying to be optimistic here.
They hope.
Hey. We shall see. Maybe we will make that a topic of next week's pod when we may or may not have a special guest.
Oh, yeah.
And we go into less than a month to the playoffs.
Man. I'm excited. This will be fun. The playoffs will be great. We're looking forward to it. Maybe we'll do playoff previews. Well, we can't. It'll be too early next week.
Too early, yeah.
We'll look at matchups we're most looking forward to.
For sure.
Based on where the standings will be next week. That'll be fun.
Stay tuned, guys. Next week, we are going to jump straight on into matchups for the playoffs with a special guest that we cannot yet
Can't
announce.
tell you who it is.
But he or she is very special.
Yeah, special person.
All right. That is enough teasers for this week because we got to run, guys. But thanks for hanging with the 7-footers per usual. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and our personal handles at Jarod.
At JS Hector.
Yes.
At
and
Jenna Lemonzelli.
Thank you. I was going for the JS, but then I was like, I'll let him do it. All right, guys. Peace out.
Later.